Yo, welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. I'm Jack, and today's episode, we are joined by a very special guest, current professional hockey goaltender Zack Freiburger. He is currently playing in the Michigan Independence Hockey League with the Gaylord Snow. And even before he joined the pro ranks in the MIHL, he played some junior hockey in the NA3HL with the Peoria Mustangs and the USPHL Premier with the Worcester Oilers before joining the Warhawks Hockey Club in the MIHL at the end of last season before ultimately joining Gaylord before this year. And he's also a Team USA deck hockey player. So that's pretty cool to be represented by the or represent the USA. So that's pretty cool. We'll dive into that throughout this episode. So Zach, I'm very happy to have you on the show. So welcome to the show, Zack Freiberger.
Thank you very much for having me. It's awesome to be on here. I think it's super cool what you're doing, exposing a lot of the minor league guys and guys that are coming up the ranks. So it's awesome to give these guys a platform.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it's all about. Just having the guys share their stories and like who doesn't love just shooting the shit with the boys and just like it brings back locker room talk pretty much and it's just always a good time and you learn stuff as well as like you teach stuff as well when you're on these episodes and you're just talking about your career, your path a little bit. So it's always interesting and fun to have people on.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, you ask any guy that quits playing hockey, that was me for 3, 4 years, was one of the biggest things you miss is always the locker room, the boys, being on the ice with all of them, just the grind of going through a season with the group of guys and trying to go towards the same goal. So
Yeah.
it's fun.
Absolutely. But you're from Bendorf, Iowa. Before we get into like youth hockey and or like your pro career and everything, like just dive into what it was like growing up in Bendorf, Iowa, and going throughout the ranks all the way up until junior hockey.
So growing up in Iowa, obviously hockey's not a prominent sport. Not a lot of ice down here. We got one main rink down in downtown Davenport here. The Quad Cities is going to be 4 cities. It's two on Davenport, or two on the Iowa side, two on the Illinois side. So kind of conjoins to be one big cities. We call it Quad Cities. So we got a rink over in Davenport that is on the Iowa side. It's going to be your rec rink. Got your pro rink. That's our full like stadium that was built in like the 90s, early 90s on the Illinois side, and that's where the Quad City Mallards came from. So Quad City Mallards were in the UHL back in the day. At one point, they had the best record I think in the world for any hockey team. One of those teams that would come punch you in the mouth until you said I'm done. Maybe wasn't the most skilled hockey team in the world. Actually, one of my teammates, Brendan Brooks, played for him back in the day.
Brooksy.
And yeah, so yeah, they would. They had some of the toughest guys you'd ever seen, and that's what got me into hockey. Was going to those games. Nobody in my family had ever played hockey. So from the time of 3, it was back when the only way you could learn how to skate in town was figure skating lessons. So went to go learn how to skate from them. Got into hockey from there, and actually was a forward for the first 4, 5 years. No, until I was 9. So I started skate when I was 4 years old. I started playing goalie when I was 9, 10 years old. I always had a love for it. Was a pretty good skater. We never really did the travel route just because I wasn't too big into it at that point. But I always loved goalie. I always played it in the garage. I always loved the pads, everything about it. Just like any goalie says, you get hooked in by the pads.
Yeah.
So I was just actually when I was like 9 years old, we had these summer league games that we would play like house league throughout the summer so guys could keep their skills up when it wasn't hockey season. And I thought, oh, I'm going to take these 90s pads that I got from our Canadian buddy in the garage and try out goalie today. Played pretty well, and the travel coach ended up coming up to our parents or to my parents and basically saying like he needs to try out for the travel team as goalie next year. So long story short, ended up getting new gear, transition over to goalie, had a really good year, and then from there just started the career as a goalie, kind of completely switching over from wanting to score goals to want to stop goals, and played in the Quad Cities for 3 or 4 years after I started playing goalie, and then the closest place with the next highest level of hockey is going to be out in Chicago. That's where a lot of players went. So ended up going there, played Double A for my first year in Chicago with Orland Park Vikings. Ended up getting noticed by the AAA Chicago Fury the next year. Played there. At that point, we were traveling twice a week from Iowa, 2.5 hours for practice. My dad and my grandpa would drive me, so thankful for them for always doing that. And then finally, when I was 15 years old, was the first time that I billeted. That was out in Omaha. I billeted out in Omaha, played for the U15 team. Really good experience. Lived with a great billet family. Kind of learned a lot that year. Made some mistakes um, that I learned from being a 15-year-old living away from home for the first time. And then ended up going to Des Moines, my U16 year, playing for the Iowa Wild AAA team there. That's probably the most hockey I've ever played. I played 42 games out of like 60 that year, I think.
Wow.
Uh,
Big year for you.
Traveling from, oh yeah, we were playing in two leagues. We were playing in the Tier 1 Elite League, which was a lot of the Midwest teams, and then you
Yeah.
had Texas teams, Colorado teams. I'm sure you know all about that, and a lot of the viewers do too. But we were also playing in the ECEL, which is what the team was, because it was only like a third-year team or second-year program. So they were in the East Coast Elite League. So we were having to fly to Boston and New Jersey and Connecticut every single weekend towards the beginning of the year. At one point during Christmas, we had a 22-hour bus trip from Des Moines to Connecticut because the plane flights were like $1,500 a seat. So we obviously
Ouch.
weren't going to be doing that. But and then luckily, I didn't think it was going to be the best thing at first, but my senior year, because of my junior year, I let my grades slip quite a bit. Thought I was getting a little big for my head, playing quite a few games, and thought I was going to the show at that point. Forgot about the things that actually
Don't we
mattered, and
all?
yeah, ended up getting pulled home for my senior year to play for our high school team here in the Quad Cities, the Quad City Blues, which is a great place to play. And kind of wish I would have done it all 4 years once I came back my senior year, just because of how fun it was to rekindle with all the kids that I played back starting hockey with. And now I actually have a freshman brother that's playing for the team, making his way up the ranks too. So that's kind of the short story long of the ranks. I played in a lot of places. I think there was a 7 year streak where I played for 7 teams in 7 years. So kind of a suitcase, but enjoyed every step and learned a lot everywhere I went. So
Yeah,
hope that
that's
was too much.
oh, that was perfect. Like, obviously, like, bro, like you obviously love the sport now, so it's just good to hear like the come up story and just like that you're a forward before, because I was a forward all the way up until I was 18 actually, and before switching to goalie. So like, it's just cool to hear those stories of just go wanting to go from scoring goals and sniping goalies to being the one in the net trying not to get sniped.
100%. It's at some point it's not the most fun now, but I mean I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And like youth hockey's always a blast when you're just growing up and like there's nothing to worry about, like living stress free. The parents are driving to the road trips, everything like that. So like what were some of your favorite memories growing up like playing youth hockey?
It's got to be the hotel mini hockey matches.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big proponent of that. I was the one that would always bring the nets. I had the sticks. I always made sure we had enough if somebody didn't bring their own. I mean, when it comes to minor hockey, that's got to be the big
Yeah.
thing. Getting yelled at by hotel receptionists because you're making too much noise in the hallway. We actually had some lady in St. Louis. I remember we were making a ruckus in one of her second floor halls, and she ended up opening like a full conference room. Like normally people would just be like, scram off kids, go to your rooms, or I'm gonna call your parents. This lady like straight up opened up like a big like ballroom just so we could play mini hockey.
Go
And
from
that's
going
got
in trouble to living the luxury life right there.
literally we were like, can this lady just be at every single hotel we go to now? But I mean, on top of that, the buses. I mean, everything comes down to the guys. I mean, I love
Yeah.
the game so much, and I love playing the game. But it's the people that are around it that really makes it what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like we said, like that's everything it comes to is just obviously the love for the game and then just being with the guys and like just chilling in the locker room with them after practices, the road trips, the bus trips, like everything like that. It all comes together and like it makes everything even better. Like even if you're going through like a tough streak, just like being with the boys, like that's the best part.
100%, 100%. Best of the best times, and lows of lows sometimes. But
Yeah.
everybody's together.
Yeah, absolutely. But like you went from being in Chicago and Illinois to going to Omaha to going to Iowa for the Wild AAA teams. Like what are the different things that you learned throughout those years that really helped like develop your game to a whole new level?
So in Illinois, especially when it came to jumping up to that AAA level with the Fury, the speed. is one thing that I really had to kind of adapt to because I never really had any full-time goalie coaching as a kid. I played for a summer team called the Minnesota Mavericks. That was great to me. I played every single summer, 3, 4 tournaments for them up in Albert Lee, Minnesota, and then eventually at the Shattuck St. Mary's rinks. And they were huge on my development during the summer. But that was other than that, and going to some mega goaltending clinics when we were up in Minneapolis, there really wasn't any like goalie coaching. It was more just watching the NHL and trying to emulate guys. Like my favorite guys were Marc-Andre Fleury, big reason why I wear number 29. Carey Price was a guy that I always loved a lot to watch, and then Jonathan Quick. Those were kind of the main three that I would watch and just kind of emulate their game and try to do what they did in practice. And with the Fury in Chicago, playing with a lot of good players, which we ended up having multiple players on that team go and play at the major junior level or at the collegiate level, just playing against them and having to adapt to way better players when before I was just playing double A or Iowa hockey, which we had good players, but not like the whole team being able
Yeah.
to pick one over your shoulder at any point and playing against guys like Brady Tkachuk back in the day. And there's lots of names that I could mention, but that's kind of the biggest thing for that year was adapting the AAA game and the speed, getting my movements a little bit more, a little longer, a little quicker, stuff like that. Trying to be a little bit bigger that way too. Just because I was a little bit all over the place, kind of Dominic Hasek
Yeah.
style, just a tall goalie that kind of flung around and somehow made the saves at the
Yeah.
beginning. Omaha taught me a little bit of adversity, I would say. Going there was thinking that I was going to be kind of because they had a U16 team that was number 2 in the country. Was going in there thinking I'd be able to go up there and take that top spot. The year really did not go how I planned. It's probably the worst I played, I would say, in the years I played goalie. So that really taught me to keep going and not give up. Like I was obviously stuck in
Yeah.
Omaha. There wasn't anywhere I could hide or go. And I was having a bad season, not playing much, but all I could do was show up to practice every single day,
Yeah.
keep trying, try to be positive. And so that was a big learning year. That. And then I would say Des Moines, there's two things. That one thing is it taught me to grow up, first of all. Like I said, I brought up the grades. I got a little cocky. I was worrying about a little too much hanging out with the boys. There's a good balance. You got to be able to balance it, especially in high
Yeah.
school. But I mean, so I learned a lot that way as well as playing 42 games in a year. You got to keep your body healthy. You got to be working
Yeah.
out a lot. You got to be stretching. Got to be performing in practice every single day so the team has confidence in you in games because they know you're going to be starting. So that was kind of two things. I mean, being 16, it almost was like a mini like pro camp. I want to say like a 1 season pro camp where like I was playing AAA as a youth, but like I was kind of getting taught like, oh, you got to take care of other stuff off the ice, kind of like a pro
Yeah.
does, and you got to be able to take care of your body playing a lot of games, kind of like a pro does too. Um, and then I would say my senior year just kind of taught me to love the game and love hockey again, rather than trying to be the first goalie from Iowa to be drafted or the first goalie from Iowa to go blah or do whatever. Like I was always had this ego because leaving the Quad Cities now, there was only a few guys. One of them actually is in the NHL farm system now, Luke Toporowski with the Providence Bruins. I was always wanting to be right in line with those type of guys.
Yeah.
And my senior year brought me back down to earth and kind of taught me more. Just love the game and enjoy it for what it is. And I ended up getting to go play juniors for a couple years after that. So that was positive too.
Yeah, and like when you go back to like the roots of like just keeping it simple, just doing the basic stuff and like really dialing in like the love of the game again, like your whole career changes then because you actually enjoy going to the rink every day, putting the extra work, going for 3, 4, 5 gym sessions in a week or whatever it is, and then just it just makes you fall in love with the game even more and like an even stronger love for the game.
100%. Yeah, 100%. You gotta learn how to grow up and become a man. And like I said, still show up with the same love for it every day.
Yeah, exactly. But then after your youth hockey experience, you go on to juniors in the NA3HL with the Peoria Mustangs. So like what was that journey like and what got you into the Peoria Mustangs organization?
So Peoria reached out, I want to say halfway through my senior year playing for the Blues, just because they're only about an hour and a half away from us in the Quad Cities.
Yeah.
Uh, so their coach the year that I was playing my senior year reached out, and I ended up going up there and practicing with the team my senior year for I want to say 4 or 5, maybe at least a month. I went up and practiced with them towards the end of the year before playoffs. They really liked me. Ended up signing me to a tender. I was still going to plan on trying to go to some NAL camps that summer to try to go to the next level, but it was good to have that because it was such a great organization. They ended up doing a lot of coaching changes over the summer and went to camp not knowing the coach, still knowing a little bit of the organization, but played really well in camp. Ended up making the team. Had a pretty dang good year. We had 3 really good goalies in Peoria and a really solid team. And we all played pretty well. It just when it came to playoffs, it came down to we were all playing pretty much the same where they had to go with the veteran that had
Yeah.
played the year before. So it totally made sense. But had a good year at a 917 through played 17 games in junior. Learned how to play against men because there's 20 years old and I was only there's 20-year-olds in that and I was only 18 at that point. So it was a really good year and I loved it there. There was great people. I got to skate with the Rivermen once a week too in the SP because they opened that up to us because Guy Trudell's big
Yeah.
integral into Peoria, which is why I would recommend Peoria and the Mustangs to any player coming up through minor league hockey. It is fantastic organization, great facilities. They treat you just like the pro team in town, as well as bringing you to booster dinners and including you in coming down to the locker room, hanging out with SB guys, and even getting to practice with them, stuff like that. So I really regret not staying there and leaving to go to the USP because I really think that my second year could have gone really well in Peoria, but
Yeah.
ended up getting roped into going out to Ohio. So 2020 hindsight,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Like what
Peoria.
was it like? What was it like practicing with the SPHL team when you're playing the NA3 and then you get to go practice with the SP team?
It was awesome. I mean, obviously these guys got an extra zip to their shots like we
Yeah.
see now with the guys that we're playing against in practice every single day, or you every single day, maybe not every single day, um but yeah, I mean that. But the biggest thing was the goalies that were there, especially Peter DeSalvo, were
Yeah.
so welcoming. I
Mad
mean, they
Dog.
were the 2 pro goalies there. I forget. I wish I knew the other guy's name. I feel like a jerk not remembering it. I would find it quick if I looked it up, but it was in 2016 or 2017, 18. But both of them were just so welcoming. I mean, it was their practice. They were the 2 goalies. I was just some punk kid from the junior team in town that wanted to come skate and see some pro shots and get some extra ice time. And they couldn't have been more welcoming. They weren't angry about giving up the net at all. They were teaching me stuff. DeSalvo let me use an old pair of his Brian's pads to see if I liked Brian's one practice. I mean, just stuff like that. I sat right between them in the locker room. Like, it was the coolest thing ever just to see how those guys operate because they're a championship program and a
Yeah.
championship style mess. I think 2 years ago they won it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, guys like, Hageman was in the locker room at that point. Dave Shaninsky, the head coach of the Storm, was the captain of that team. So, saw him in the locker room as a player before he came to my hometown to coach our team. So, it was a super cool year. Not along with that, but we just had a super cool group of guys that kind of welcomed everybody in and made it a good experience. And we had a team that could have gone a long ways. We just didn't have the bounces go our way.
Yeah, and like that's a whole another great experience is just learning from the pro guys and just being how welcoming they are and like
Mhm.
having like teaching you stuff and like not or and having you take the net over for a couple of shots, whatever it was, and them like actually like being welcoming and everything like it just gives it a whole nother feel and like you just feel more welcome than it would if you didn't have that experience.
Yeah, I attribute a lot of the play style that I use today to a lot of the stuff that DeSalvo taught me on the ice when I was practicing
Yeah.
with him with the Rivermen. I mean, that's crazy how much he was able to teach me. That's proves why he's a goaltending coach now up at Saint Scholastica and with Mega Goaltending up in Minnesota. I mean, he's good at what he does. He was great in the net. I'll tell you that for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But then after that year in Peoria, you went. to the USPHL premiere with the Worcester Oilers. Like, what was that experience like? You only got 2 games, but I'm sure it was a learning experience, and like I'm sure you learned a lot from that.
Yeah, it wasn't the best year at all. Went in that year really thinking that I was going to be going up to the NCDC. Thought that I was going to be able to crack that roster. Ended up not happening. Started down with Worcester. Um, Played a couple games with them. I didn't think they went too bad. Didn't play my best for sure, but I mean, it was kind of like we had a developing team, kind of a young team. Um, Ended up getting a little bit heavy into the booze that year myself in the billet house. So that ended up becoming an issue with the team. They didn't. That was one of the guys in the house didn't like it. Became an issue with the team. So we ended
Yeah,
up parting ways after a couple games just because I wasn't enjoying it there as well. And at that point, I kind of just thought I was going to take the year off and go into hockey the next year, and that's when COVID happened. So, there's really, I mean, it was really only about a month and a half in Worcester. It was cool place to be, a lot of good guys there. It just really didn't match up like I thought it was going to. I think staying in
yeah,
Peoria would have been a lot better of an option for me that year, and it would have suited me a lot better in the long run. But 50-50 hindsight, as I said, and I don't think they are around anymore, which is sad because Worcester's a cool town and we got some
yeah.
cool people. But I don't think they ended up making it through that year either. But spent a lot of changes in ownership and coaches over the last few years there. But I hope they end up coming back because it's a cool town to play junior hockey
Yeah.
and they got a college right there. Cool little rink, and it's in a good spot right next to Toledo and obviously right in that Cleveland area where there's a lot of players playing for the Barons and other good AAA programs and even AA and high school programs in the Ohio area.
Yeah, that seems like a great spot to be with all those amenities and everything like that. Those facilities like seems like it'd be really successful. So then before we like dive into like your pro career here a little bit here, you obviously play ball hockey with deck hockey and you're representing Team USA. So talk a little bit about ball hockey and representing the USA with deck hockey and just like how you got involved with all that.
So first of all, there's two types of ball hockeys in the United States. In the eastern part of the United States, and even a little bit down south and out west now, it's predominantly 5-on-5 ball hockey, which will be played on a 200 by 85 rink
Yeah,
with a ball and a shoes, 5-on-5. Excuse me. And that's been the more prominent style that's been around since I think even the 80s. It was around in like Pennsylvania and the Pittsburgh area. But we have here in Iowa have started 3-on-3, which is deck hockey, is what the technical term is for it. A guy named Patrick Lebec played for the Mallards here in the early 2010s and ended up finding a home here with his wife and brought down. He's from Quebec. Ended up bringing down deck hockey, which is originated from Quebec. 3-on-3, 100 by 50 court, almost arcade style ball hockey, where you get 45 shots a game per each team. You play a box or a triangle style, one tees everywhere. It can be a shot from all the way down by your own goalie. Crazy, but it's super fun and it's really good off-season training. So when they brought that into town in 2012, I kind of got involved a little bit at the beginning, and because I was only 12 years old at that point, 13
yeah,
years old, and it wasn't until the 2013 season when our next door neighbor was playing on a women's team, and back then they didn't have enough goalies for women's league, so they would allow anybody that was under 13 or under to play goalie as a male for the women's team. So she's like, "Oh,
nice.
our goalie got hurt. Can you come play with us for the last 2 games of the season and then playoffs?" It's like, "Oh yeah, sure. I've been wanting to try this deck hockey and that." Go in and end up taking this team that was last place all the way to the finals.
There we
Whoopie
go.
won the
Not a big deal.
championship. So that's one thing that I always cheer people at deck. It's like, oh, you got a women's championship? Didn't think so. I do back in the day, 13 years old. And then yeah, the next year ended up getting in with Patrick Levesque and his brother Nick, who plays for the Storm now here in town, and played for Danbury the Hat Tricks a couple years ago, and has been a prominent player in the FP. But ended up getting with them, played with Nick's team as a 13-year-old, 14-year-old in D1. My first year, won with him. Kind of just fell in love with it from there, where I kept playing every single year. kept getting more and more into it every single year. It grew. We ended up getting 2 rinks, more teams, super high level, because we actually have a lot of good hockey players around here that move here from either Palmer Chiropractic in town or ex Mallard players or even kids. I mean, there's a huge hockey program here now
Yeah.
that's built. But I ended up becoming good enough and playing in our national tournament that we have a pro division in, D1 pro division for $5,000 every year. And that I was asked in 2016, my senior year, to go out to Montreal to play for the Team USA deck hockey team. The first year we were doing 3-on-3 ever as Team USA, and went out there as a backup. We had a 5-on-5 goalie from out in the New Jersey area, I want to say, so that's somewhere out east. So I went out there. I was just happy as a kid just to be on the team. I was like, I'm gonna go out there, be a backup, be the coolest, like be the biggest hoorah guy on the bench
Oh
ever.
yeah.
And
Huge team
first
guy.
2 games, oh yeah, first 2 games ended up not going too well for our team. So I got thrust in there against Team Asia. I think was my first game. Played lights out. Ended up playing the rest of the tournament until we lost in the bronze medal game to Italy. Quebec ended up winning over Canada that year because Quebec and Canada split in their own teams for some reason. But kept playing from there, and I love it. It's the best off season because off season training because you're out in 95-degree heat with
Yeah.
full goalie gear, sweat a lot.
Gets you
B
in shape quickly.
ball, yeah. B the ball curves, so you have to track the ball so much more, and these guys can
Yeah.
shoot at 115 miles an hour. So I mean, so that helps. And then also, I mean, just movement and just stopping projectiles is what I always say
Yeah.
during summer. As long as you're stopping some type of projectile, you're getting better at goalie, I always
Oh
say.
yeah.
So that's a big thing about it. And was able to go out to Slovakia in 2018 again and play for another World Cup. And that was the last time we ended up playing one. I'm hoping we're able to go out again in the next couple of years, but there's been some changes in the organizational bodies that
Yeah.
run these tournaments. So we're hoping to get back out there soon enough because I'm itching to put on the USA jersey again. But like I said before we were getting on, we're trying to figure out all the teams and stuff for this upcoming season that will be starting up hot and heavy in early April.
There we go. Well, it's really cool to see like how that started in Iowa and now it's like a big thing, and like it's apparently a big thing in the world too. So that's pretty cool to just be able to go to different places and go for worlds and stuff like that, and then to put on a Team USA jersey like that doesn't get cooler than that. So like, what was it like putting that jersey on firsthand when you had your first game?
Oh, I mean, it was even before that. It was when we got them in the hotel. I was like, just seeing because we actually had our names on the back, and I was like, "Is this real? Like, did I
That's
actually do
sick.
this?" I was like, I spent like the whole like 6 months before that, like working so hard, like because there was a little inkling that maybe I would be able
Yeah.
to be the selection to go because we have another ex-pro goalie here in town, Marty Filion, that played, that was also well more than capable to be on the team that year, but he decided to coach and to have me instead. So I mean, just seeing the jersey first of all was enough, but pulling on and especially after the game, you get your national anthem. I mean, it was crazy. And just being, it was the first time I was out of the country even. So
Yeah.
just leaving the country as a senior in high school, I mean, was crazy. And going up to Canada just to play hockey, and so it was a really cool experience, and I really hope that I'm able to do it again at some point.
Yeah, that would be sick. I'm sure you'll get the invite and be able to do it again sometime soon, and hopefully go win a gold medal.
Heck yeah, that's the plan. Always going for gold. USA all the way.
Uh,
USA hockey's do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's just great, and like just hear the excitement. Like you're ready, you're dialed to go win a gold.
Heck yeah, yeah. I mean, the Quebec and Canada have been holding it down the last few years. We got to steal away from it at some point. We're starting to get in ice hockey. Now we just need to start crawling it away with ball hockey a little bit too.
You guys are due for one. Yeah, so then you after like you took a little break from hockey for a little bit, you began your pro career with the MIHL's Warhawks Hockey Club, and that's where you first got your start last season with just getting a couple practices in and really feeling out like the Michigan Independence Hockey Leagues. Like what was that experience like getting to practice, like going to the Warhawks Hockey Club, and just overall, like what was your first impression of the Michigan Independence Hockey League?
Well, it was good to get in the door, first of all, and you could tell that there were some good players there. I mean, we had a couple guys come down from the Elmira Mammoth that were skating with the team towards the end of the season. So I forget names. I'm really bad with names because I only met them once. But also somebody from the Rockers came down, was like running practice one day. So there were skilled players there, and Josh Paricio, our coach and our assistant coach in Gaylord, that's coaching us right now while Miles is out, is was there as well and took over the team that year as well too. And he's a fantastic coach. So it was great, and he ran the practices like a true pro practice. Lots of shots, lots of pucks, lots of movement. So it was kind of good to be back on the ice in a true team form again that I haven't been on in quite a while. It would have been 3 years at that point since I had done like a full like real team practice. So it was good to get on the ice that way and at least get back in the swing of things. And Josh had a lot of confidence in me and wanted to get me in there, but just the owner had different ideas. So
Yeah, so then you go on to the Gaylord Snow for this season, where you played 6 games, I believe. You put up like a 2.6 goals against average. So like, what's this first full year of MIHL action like for you, and just trying to work your way up the ranks?
well, first of all, I feel like my game's in the best place it's ever been and
Yeah,
getting better single week right now. I'm a lot more fluid with my game. I'm a lot more confident. They have a lot of confidence in me and Gaylord too, with the players and the coaches. And it seems to be a really good fit for a place for me to start. They do a really good job of treating their players well and running a cool, fun organization to play for. In the semi-pro level, trying to get back into hockey. It's great that there's leagues like this out there. But I'm really enjoyed it. I mean, we played some tough teams like Muskegon. Kalkaska's been super scrappy lately. Even the game I had against Blue Water was pretty good. And then Waterford's always a test. They always got some good shooters. So just to be playing against guys that have that high caliber shot and guys that could possibly be in the Fed, and a lot of guys on our team that have been called up to the Fed and are currently playing with the Rockers. Just being with those guys and playing against them and kind of learning to play more of a pro style game rather than the U style game. I've had to slow down a lot of things rather than, like I was saying earlier with AAA, I tried to learn to be super quick because the play was so fast compared to what I was used to, where you almost have to dumb that down a little bit and
yeah.
bring it back a little bit in pro hockey because these guys are so skilled and they're going to make that extra pass rather than shooting. So it's not obviously as skilled as the FP or the SP or anything above it, but there's a lot of good players and it's a really good place to develop. I would say, I mean, other than maybe the Rocky Mountain League, it's probably the best developed league at that caliber so far.
Yeah, I would
I
agree
don't know
as
much about
well.
the league though.
Yeah, I would agree as well, and like it's just great for development because you're seeing that game action. You're seeing practices as well, so it's like you're seeing all the action, everything you need to develop and get to that next level. And like you have guys that play in the Fed, the SP, in that league as well. So you're seeing that high talent, like you said, and you're just able to learn from guys like that. And like that's also like one of the biggest things I've learned is just slowing the game down. Like obviously, like as you go up the levels, like the game gets faster and faster, and you would think that you have to just get quicker and quicker, but it's actually you have to slow the game down because once if you're just gonna just say go go go, like that's when like you're overcommitting the shots and you're just over sliding stuff like that. But if you really slow it down, play simple, like that's where you have the most success.
Yeah, 100%. And especially me as a bigger goalie, I'm 6'4". I've always been a bigger goalie. I thought that was something that I was lacking back in the day was speed, but I mean, like I said earlier, Carey Price, look at him, prime example. He makes it look like in the net that he's not trying almost because he
Yeah,
makes it look so easy. The more you move, the more holes you're opening up,
yeah,
especially as a big guy. So guys that are a little bit smaller and quicker are able to move better in net. It just makes sense. More mass, you're obviously going to be sucked down by gravity. I mean, it just physics and all that. I'm not a physician, obviously. Look at me, but I mean, it just all makes sense. So as a bigger goalie, the less you move, the more space you take up, the less they're going to
yeah.
get scored on. I mean, all these crazy saves where guys are diving across the net or flopping around and getting a crazy stick behind them on. I mean, those are super cool plays, but the only reason they're making those saves is because they're out of position.
Yeah.
And if you want to be a successful goaltender in the pro ranks, like I go and I regularly watch the Storm here in the Quad Cities when I can in the SP, and I watch their goalies the whole time. I don't even hardly watch the play. And you just have to be so consistent and not, you got to not be letting in those goals that where you're out of position, or else you're going to not last long in those leagues.
Yeah. And it's just more of the simple the better. You're not doing these long movements. It's just short movements, quick movements, and like precise movements where it's really gonna be simple and just that's where your game excels at that level. Is just the simplicity and just going back to the basics.
Right. A lot more puck tracking. That's for sure. That as
Yeah.
well. I mean, you got to make sure you're every single rebound. If you pop that thing right back out in the slot, you got guys that can tuck that right into the bar, no problem.
Yeah, exactly. But like you also like over the summer, like this is where we first met was at the Elmira FPHL Free Agent Camp. So like what was that experience like and just getting your foot in the door of FPHL hockey?
So I kind of went into that camp a little blind. I hadn't really had any contact with anybody in the FP other than the Coach Simleka with Blue Ridges, who I got the invite
Yeah.
from through Ryan Alves, my old agent. So I went out there kind of blind, only really knowing him and not exactly knowing what to expect. And I think I went out there with a lot of people not exactly knowing who I was. So I feel like I wasn't really getting watched too much because I feel like I performed really well out there.
Yeah.
And even people that I've talked to that were out there coaching um, agreed with me. I just wasn't somebody they knew and wasn't somebody that was, I don't know, it just seemed like yeah, it just seemed like it wasn't the right place, right time. So that's when I decided to get a hold of Torgs because he seemed to have all the ends with the Fed, which is really, I'm trying to stay in North America if I can help it. I'm not against
Yeah.
going over to Europe at all, but it's got to be the right situation. And I would
Yeah,
ideally like to
exactly.
stay in North America. So now that I got him kind of pushing my name into coaches and GMs, ears and head and brains at least a little bit. I feel like my name's out there a little bit more than it was maybe prior. Where Alves, but I mean Alves wasn't doing anything wrong. I was a kid that hadn't played hockey in 3 years. That the
Yeah.
only thing he had to reference me off of was, oh, he's been practicing with the Warhawks in the MIHL. So I mean that's not on him at all. It's just he's more doing more of the Europe stuff, and he's great at sending guys out to Europe and doing all that. And I'm still friendly with Alves 100%. But it just, yeah, Torgs just had more of the FP connection that I want to kind of pursue instead.
Yeah.
So
And it's like that's what a lot of it comes down to, just who you know now and just getting like the good reps and the good like good get in good with people at the right time. Like that's where opportunities are gonna come from.
100%. Yeah. I mean, you got that as good as you got to be on the ice. You also got to be a good person. So
Yeah, exactly. But before we wrap this episode up, like I have a few more questions for you. So like what's some advice that you give younger kids looking to get to that next level, whether it be high school to college, high or youth hockey to juniors, college to pro, like whatever the case may be.
I think goaltending is getting a little bit too robotic these days. I think guys aren't relying on their athleticism and their mind a lot more than they need to be.
Yeah,
I feel like goalies, not superstition, but you should have a routine where you're
yeah,
able to get yourself in a mindset before every single game where you almost flip that internal trigger, whether, excuse me, whether it's a practice or a game. You always, I don't know if you've ever read the goalie mind books about being in
yeah,
flow. You always want to, you're always pursuing that flow. So you always want to make sure you have a routine. You're treating every single practice like it's a game. That way you're able to perform at the top level.
yeah.
Right.
That's huge, and like the routine part is especially big because like you're able to identify that you're whether that like outside life other than hockey and then like when it's game time and practice time like you have to flip that switch and forget about everything that's happening in the outside world and you just gotta focus on that practice that game and just doing whatever you can to give your team the best chance to win.
Every time you touch the ice is an opportunity to get better at something. I even tell my brother, it's a freshman in high school, that it's a
Yeah.
forward. Every single time you hop on the ice, it's an opportunity you can work on. Even if it's not the best practice, focus on something you can get better at every single day.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry,
1% better every day.
sorry about that. I've been sick the last week or so.
No, you're all good. But the last question I have is mindset's obviously a huge part in goaltending. So like what is your what is your consensus on mindset and just like what do you do to help get into that mindset when you have to perform?
Like I said, big thing is having a routine, not superstitions like right pad on first,
Yeah.
left pad on. Don't just go show up to the rink. I mean, obviously, one big thing that I learned throughout the ranks was I used to be the goalie that showed up and didn't talk to anybody before the game. Don't do that either. Don't be the goalie that is completely in his own world. Interact with your teammates. Play a little bit of ball if they're playing ball with
Yeah.
them. Part of the team still before, but have your stretching routine, have your foam rolling routine, your little I don't do the balls, but some guys do the balls on the wall routine if they want. But and then I go before after I'm done with all my stretching, I always go and I sit in the stands and I have the same three songs that I listen to that almost tricks. I learned this from Eric Labine that played for the Rivermen back in the day, is now one of the coaches for the Rivermen. He had three songs that he purposely made sure that he would never hear outside of any place other than before hockey games. So I have those three songs. I got the Warriors Call, Avenged Sevenfold's, what's it called, Nightmare, and then what's it called, Many Men by 50 Cent. Those three songs are the three songs that like trick my brain into like, oh, it's time to perform, it's time for hockey. Listen to those songs, do some visualization on the ice, and then I always do a little bit of eye training techniques. That's something that I never knew before. I saw like Connor Hellebuck doing it before games, where you train the eyes, you get them because the eyes are muscle just as much as
Yeah.
any other part of your. You need to get those warmed up too, or else you're not going to be able to track the puck, especially like you need to when guys are flinging them at you at 95 miles an hour. So
Yeah.
that's a big thing. Like I said, it's routine, 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 not superstition, but routine. Have a routine. Treat every single practice like it's a game, every game like it's a practice. Everything should be the same every single time you get on the ice.
Yeah, exactly. I love that routine. Like this, that's just pretty much the same thing for me. Just get to the rink, maybe have like a tea or something before, and then get into like lunges, dynamic stretching, and then play a little sewer with the boys. Can't go wrong with that. And then
100%.
just dial it in, throw in the earphone in the headphones, and then it's go time and time to perform.
One other thing I'll add as well is be competitive in warm-ups.
Yeah,
People to people, I'm not, I'll be the first to admit I'm not a fan of warm-ups. If it were my choice, I'd go out there, 10 shots to the glove, 10 shots to the blocker, and I'd be good to go. That's what I do with ball hockey, which maybe isn't the best thing, but still, ball hockey is a completely different thing.
yeah,
It's a different sport in a way. But I mean, you don't want to get scored on in warm-ups just as you don't want to get just as much you don't want to get scored on during a game. So be competitive in warm-ups. Get that competitive edge going right as you step on the ice for a game.
yeah.
That's
Doesn't
not
matter. Doesn't matter if it's warm ups game. Just be competitive, and because if you're competitive, you give your team a good chance to win.
100%. Yeah, show the confidence too. Guys can see it. If you got a
Yeah.
confident goal, the whole team knows that they're going to feed off of that.
Oh yeah,
People always
and they
say
trust you
goaltending
then.
out for a reason.
Yeah, but Zach, it was great having you on the podcast. I'm really glad that you're able to take some time out of your day to come on. So I really appreciate your time, and I want to wish you the best of luck going forward with the Gaylord Snow, and hopefully see you in the FPHL soon.
Thank you very much. I just want to say again how much I appreciate you having me on, and people like me playing, trying to work their way up, giving them a platform to share their story and get their name out there. It's super cool, and look forward to watching the rest of what you put out.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. And it's awesome just hearing these stories.
Heck yeah, it's always a good time. Love talking hockey with the boys. It's one thing I've known fully since I was a little kid.